coming back to the Word of God, I was talking on a series entitled Brokenness. We saw 3 parts to it already. Brokenness. Only you can fix me, Lord. And we looked at the life of David and everything he went through, and his failures and his brokenness, and how he wrote everything down. The painful psalm of Psalm 51. Then we looked at brokenness. Only you can restore me, Lord. And we looked at the life of Peter. And boy, that was an amazing journey for me. Especially because, like I said, there's no shortage of discouragement now in our life, and we are going through some brokenness. And to know, as I said in Isaiah, when I come in all my brokenness, I don't have another ounce of strength or energy in me, when I can't get up and take another step, to know that when I come to Him bruised, He won't break me again. That was so gracious and comforting and encouraging, that He understands the brokenness we are in, the brokenness we are going through, and He is gracious and merciful and strengthens us. The same part of the verse says He does not, it's one of those candles that is almost running out of wax or out of kerosene. It's almost going to disappear. He doesn't blow it out. That's the picture of a gracious God that we looked at through the life of Peter. And that was, David was very heartbreaking for me, and Peter was so very encouraging to know that whatever we go through, whatever brokenness, there is a God who is continuing to search for us. Peter said, I am done. I have failed the Lord. I am going back fishing. And Jesus didn't give up on him when Peter gave up on himself. Jesus went searching for him and found him, sat one-on-one with him and said, sorry I had to let you sift. Let the devil sift you as wheat. Sorry that you fell through the cracks and you failed me miserably. But I'm still in control. And when you are broken and you feel miserable and a failure, my eyes were still on you. You gave up on yourself, but I didn't give up on you, and I'm here, back here, searching for you, and I'm here sitting with you one-on-one and reminding you that this is where I want you to be. Broken. No longer arrogant, no longer impulsive, no longer proud, no longer haughty, no longer confident in your own self. But I wanted you broken because there is so much work to be done. I'm going to go back home to my Father, and I'm going to pour out the Holy Spirit, and the church is going to be born, and so many people are going to come. The gospel is going to spread, the kingdom is going to spread. I can't work with you in your arrogance and your pride. So I had to allow the devil to sift you, to allow you to be broken, so that I could receive you in your brokenness. And in your brokenness I can restore you and anoint you and empower you and say, feed my sheep, because now you are in a position and a place and a posture where you're broken and you're ready to be a shepherd. Because of all the sheep that is going to come in, I need a broken man and a broken shepherd. And so I have you where you are, right where I want you to be. Then we started last week in the life of Job. We looked at Job 1 and 2, chapters 1 and 2. And that is I believe the last and the third and the last part, unless the Lord gives me anything more. The last part in the series is called Brokenness. Only you can sustain me, Lord. And we took a journey with Job, chapter 1, and I would, it's such a painful journey. It's painful because it was so picture perfect, and it is so painful because it's such a picture perfect situation or scenario. Why the Lord would allow such a thing is so painful. And we took a journey with Job, and I wouldn't wish it for my enemies. I wouldn't wish it for my enemies. So, as somebody who has lost a daughter to a tragic car accident, I can maybe appreciate it to a bit extent what it is to receive a call to say that your daughter has had a terrible accident. She's en route to the hospital. She doesn't look good. So I called, but to receive 5 phone calls back to back, that's terrible. That's what happens in Job chapter 1, verses 13 through 19. That's what literally happens. The beginning of the chapter, you see this checklist of a blessed man, and in a fraction of seconds you see everything being wiped off from that checklist. Moments ago he had everything, that everybody was envious of him in the land, and he was a gold standard. Everybody looked to him and said, if life should be like Job. I want a life like Job. And in a fraction of seconds everything disappears, and he gets these calls one after the other. He gets these people coming one after the other and telling him, I can just picture him, get these people coming and telling him, and as each person comes, he crosses off one off. He's walking with this list that he could be proud of because he has everything on the checklist. And as these messengers come and give these bad news one after the other, I can just picture him crossing off one by one on the list, until there's nothing left on the list other than his own self and his wife. Every one of those blessings on that list disappears, vanishes in a fraction of seconds. And in his, like I said, I don't wish it on the worst of my enemies. But after hearing all that bad news, all that sad news, I said last week, it amazes me how he could do what he did in verse 20. It says in verse 20, then Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his head, and he fell to the ground, and he worshipped. How can you even, I can't understand, how can you even stand up, much less stand up and worship God? That is amazing to me. Then he makes one of the most powerful statements in the scriptures. It is, I have still, if it was like a lollipop, I have sucked on it and I have not completely, this lollipop doesn't disappear. The depth of the truths that come out of what he said in his worship, I have not exhausted the truth still. That I have preached on this so many times, I have not exhausted the truths on this. It just keeps coming again. Let us leave verse 21 there and continue on to chapter 2, as if he didn't have enough. It says there, the same scenario that happens in Job chapter 1, 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. You will find that the same scenario repeats in chapter 2, verses 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. The same scenario repeats. The spiritual beings are gathering. God is asking, where are you coming from? To the Satan. Satan answers, on going to and fro on the earth and walking back and forth on it. Can you find a repetition? Then verse 3, the Lord said, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? except this time he adds one more line, because now the Lord saying, earlier I gave you permission to take away everything that he has, and you took everything that he has. And he proclaims an amazing thing in verse 21. So God answers here, adds something over here. Who fears God and shuns evil, and he still holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without cause. Verse 4. So Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. Yes, all that a man he has, he will give for his life. Verse 5. But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. As if this man didn't lose everything on his checklist, as if the man didn't lose everything that he has, the relentless pursuit of the devil to test this man and prove him a failure in the eyes of God doesn't stop. He said, I'm not done with him. I think we can still break him. You took away everything he has. He responded to you in worship. Okay, let's not stop there. Let's hurt his body. Because in the previous test, everything he lost. But God said, you can take away everything from him, but do not touch his body. The devil is saying, now that we've taken everything away from him, let's not stop there. Let's test him further. Let's hurt his body. Skin for skin. Yes, all that a man has, he will give for his life. I challenge you, God, let's stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. And the Lord agreed with him. And the Lord allowed him. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, he is in your hand, but spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took for himself a potsherd with which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Now there's a broken man sitting in the midst of his ashes. Here is a man who has lost everything. And he is not even done. He's not finished with his mourning. He's not finished in his brokenness. And there again, it comes on again. What is this, Lord? What is this, Lord? What is happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Is a question he could have asked. He sits there in his mourning and in his ashes, scratching himself of all the boils that are breaking and oozing and smelling and infected, and a nasty scene, nasty place to be. And there was only one thing now left on his checklist, on his list, that is his wife. He lost everything. Then his wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. Curse God and die. I mean, what is there to live for? You are the most blessed man in the land. You had everything to boast and to stand strong with your head high. Everybody looked up to you. You were somebody that everybody looked up to. You were the gold standard. Now, I don't know whether you realize it or not. Everything is gone. What are you? Why are you standing this? Why are you trying to be so spiritual? Everything that gave you identity in this land, everything that everybody looked up to you because you had, is gone. You are the totality or the sum of all that you have. You are the totality or the sum of all your blessings. All that is gone. There is nothing left. Curse God and die. The wife challenged him. And he responds back in verse 10. And he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God? And shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. You know what? Let me read Now that we have the whole story, let me read two of those verses, a couple of verses. After the first testing, he responds in verse 20. Job arose and tore his robe, shaved his head, and he fell to the ground and worshipped. And he said, this is one of the most profound statements in the scripture, naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Verse 22. In all this, Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong. That means he didn't point his finger or he didn't blame God. He has no clue that everything he is facing in the earthly realm is the consequence of a test happening in the spiritual realm. He has no clue. God never gave him a preview or a trailer of this is what is going to come. Then the second testing comes, and he responds in Job chapter 2, verse 10 and the whole of verse 10. But he said to her, you speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? Again, that verse repeats there. In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Now that is the part, these three verses, I cannot comprehend or I cannot understand how a man can respond to know this is not an ordinary adversity. We're not talking about having a total car crash where you come out with pretty much every bone in your body that is broken. No, this is not that. We're not talking about something ordinary testing here. This is the sum of all of it. The sum of all of it together. So, how can somebody go through such kind of a testing, lose everything he has, then be filled with boils from the crown of his head to his feet, filled with boils that burst open and leak and ooze and smell, and not be able to before he's not even able to stand up from the morning of his first testing, be filled with another, we succumb to another round of testing, and then the only human being that he can look up to or stand with tells him, curse God and die. That's discouragement heaped upon agony and brokenness. That's the sum of it all. There is the recipe for a suicide. There's everything there. Nothing to look forward to. Nothing to look forward to around, because it's all discouragement. You have lost everything that you have. There you have the recipe for suicide. So I cannot understand this man as to how he can respond to these terrible testings or trials by speaking these amazing godly words. They are amazing godly words. They are a treasure in them. And I asked myself, and that's all I want to share today. I put myself in his shoes and I asked, I don't understand you, man, Joe, as to how you can respond like this when all this has happened to you, and not shake your fist at God and curse God and die. Either you curse God and die, or I'm just going to die myself. I can't understand you, Joe. And I stood in his shoes and I asked myself, what would make me say the kind of statements that he had said in response to these kind of ultimate sufferings, ultimate testings, and ultimate trials. And these are just a couple of thoughts that came to my mind, and maybe if you were to take these thoughts and put yourself in his shoes, and you realize that you would also may be able to make that kind of a statement in your ultimate trials and testings and sufferings. So a couple of truths I want to share. The first truth, I'm just going to read them out.
and just share a little bit. The first truth is, it says there, Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his head, and fell to the ground. There is everything in there about a man who is in a state of brokenness and agony and pain. I always believed that, growing up as a young believer, that if I'm a child of God, first of all I thought, I'm a child of God, nothing's going to happen to me. It's a nice ride to heaven. It has to be a bed of roses because I'm a child of God and I've left darkness and I'm now in the kingdom of light. But it was not so at all like that. And then I thought, if I face a failure or I have a struggle, I need to, because I come from such a background, from such an upbringing, I cannot show my weakness when I fail, or when I'm in pain, or I'm in agony or something. That's the kind of thing I wrestle. Like I said before, that's how I was until I read the book of Psalms. It didn't make head or tail as to why this man would shake his fist at the Lord and blabber all that feelings. He was like a tab. The guy was talking without a filter, without a screen, not thinking through. And I wanted to tell him, how can this be canonized? How can it be there in the scriptures? How can you shake a fist at the Lord and ask the Lord all these kind of questions? Man, you're talking to the Almighty. Put a filter on a screen. Be careful who you're talking to. But it is there in the Bible. It is there in the scriptures. It is canonized. Why? Because God is saying, I allowed that. You can shake your fist at me. It's okay to cry when you're broken. It's okay to humble yourself. It's okay to go on your knees. It's okay to feel the pain. It's okay to be in agony. It's okay to throw all your questions at me. Now, I'm not going to run away from my throne. I can handle you. I can handle all the pain. You might not get all the answers you want. You might not get all the answers you want. And God never gave Job any of the answers he wanted. He just said, I'm God. And then he talks about all the stuff he does in creation, and Job has no more words to say. No more questions. So the first truth I want to say is that there you have a man who goes through all this agonizing tragedy and he responds to that in brokenness. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. I think once I realized this truth, I have not stopped crying. Otherwise I would tell my children, if I spank them and discipline them, say, you cannot cry. But you spanked me. But no, crying is for whims. But you spanked me, you disciplined me. I don't have the right to cry. No, you cannot cry. That's a sign of weakness. Until I read the book of Psalms. And here you see, even Job, he responded to his brokenness he verbalized it. He showed it out. It's okay. God understands you and your responses during your brokenness. It is okay to break down, be broken, and respond accordingly with your emotions. Book of Psalms is all about emotions, and God can handle your emotions. That's the first thing I want to tell you. The second thing I want to challenge you with is God is always in this first and second Job. Is to be, I have told this to you, he's actually showing off Job. And makes all these statements about Job in the spiritual realm. And Job actually rises up and matches God's testimony about himself when put to the test. So, God does not give us a preview or a trailer of your time of suffering that is going to come. Sometimes He does, most of the time He does not. But I want to challenge you that when you go through a time of ultimate trial and testing and struggles, just ask yourself before you respond, is God showing me off in the heavens? And if He is doing that, will I stand up to how He is showing off? Will I rise up and match the testimony of God in the spiritual realm? You will never know the testings that we go through when the devil is being challenged up there. You will never know. Job never knew. Job never knew the suddenness with which calamity came upon him. And when trials and struggles come in our life, we have two choices. Are we going to show off? Are we going to respond in a godly way, in Job's style, and say, Lord, I'm going to rise up and match the testimony that you speak about me in the spiritual realm, in the heavenly realms. He said he's a man, a God-fearing man, one who feared God and shunned evil. That's what is told to the spiritual beings in the spiritual realm. That's exactly being told about Job in the earthly realm. And Jesus and David said, all that is good, let's test him. Let's raise the bar and test him, because he's a man who's only blessed, never been tested. Let's raise the bar and test him. God allowed David to raise the bar, and Job raised up the bar along with him. Wow. When God raises up the bar and tests us, will we rise up to the occasion and let him and please his heart, because we are resilient in our suffering. We were resilient in his heart. And oh Lord, it's like asking yourself, Lord, every time I go through a trial or testing, will I be a trophy that God shows off in the spiritual realms? Will I be a trophy? Because that's what he was saying. Have you not considered my man Job? And then he goes, wow, goes on telling all these things about Job. He's actually showing off Job in the realm of the spiritual beings. And the devil said, that's all well and good, but he's not tested. Let's test him. And when he's tested, Job equally rises up and says, and rises up to the bar that he was called up to. And he responds in an amazing way. And the devil said, wow, he rose up to the bar that he was asked to. That is amazing. So when God is showing, the question we need to ask ourselves, do we want to be trophies in the hands of God? Do we want to be trophies in the hands of the world? Or do we want to be trophies in the hands of God? Let me stop there. The remaining I want to read. I'm just going to read these thoughts out. Now, this is how I believe Job's thinking is, and while standing in his shoes, for him to make those three statements. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed who his God was. There is something about Job, and there is something about Job that he knows about God. Allowed him that kind of a response to the ultimate suffering. He knew his God. And I believe because he knew his God, that is why he responded the way he responded. That's the first point. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed who his God was. It says in verse 20, he rose, tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground and worshipped. That word worshipped is what we are looking at. What does that worship encompass? How can this man worship? What is it that you know, Job, that we don't know, that you can worship God in the totality of all the suffering? And this is what he knows. We are peeking into the mind and the head of Job. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed who his God was. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed what his spirituality was made of. Or Job's worship in his brokenness revealed what stuff Job was made of. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed Job's understanding of God's sovereignty. You don't have to use the word sovereignty here. You might know the definition of sovereignty, but I just want to say this quickly. It says God's ability to exercise supremacy in all situations. Is in a nutshell, in a very simple way, it's far too deeper than that. God's ability to exercise supremacy in all that he does is a quick definition of sovereignty. He doesn't have to preach on sovereignty here. He doesn't have to use the word sovereignty there. But it says here very clearly, here is a man who has grasped who knows his God and knows that he is a sovereign God. Because only when you know that he is a sovereign God can you write like this: the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. And the man has the audacity to bless the name of the Lord. Because his wife is saying the straight opposite. Curse God and die. How can a man who has experienced the totality of all suffering in his pain and his agony say, the Lord gave, the Lord taketh away, and now I have the audacity to bless your name, O Lord? He can only say that when he knows who his God is. And he can only say that because he understands his God to be a sovereign God. What Job is saying, Lord, you gave and you take it away. I will bless your name because nothing is going out of control over here. Nobody's lost control of the car here. Everybody is exactly where they need to be, and there is no oopsies now in God's mouth. That is the audacity of this man to say, I will bless your name, O Lord. I will bless your name because all that I had on the checklist is from you. If you gave it to me and I worshipped you and I proclaimed in the land, I am a blessed man. If you gave it all to me, you have every right to take it away. Who am I, puny man, to question you? You are a sovereign God. You are on the throne. You never make mistakes. You are always in control. Only your will takes place in my life. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed Job's understanding of God's sovereignty. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed his understanding of God's provision as the source of all his blessings. God is saying here, Job is saying here, I came with nothing. Absolutely naked when I came out of my mother's womb. And when I go, I will be naked also. Means, in essence, I'm not going to take any of this that I accumulated over these things. So, everything I have is from you. You are my Jehovah Jireh. You are the source of all my provisions and all my blessings. If it is from you, you have every right to take it. I do not understand why you took it. And it is heartbreaking. But I know you will never make mistakes. I know if anything needs to come and touch what is in the palm of your hands, you have to open your fingers and allow it in. And if you allowed it in, you have a purpose, Lord. And I bless the name of the Lord. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed his understanding of eternity. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed his understanding of true worship. This is the essence of true worship. The Bible says in the New Testament, we are called to worship Him in spirit and in truth. So the Spirit of the Lord works through our spirit to worship the Lord. That is only one half. But amazing is the worship of a man or a woman who worships God in truth. The truth of the knowledge, of the understanding of who you are worshipping. That is amazing worship, because there you have a man of God or a woman of God who has a grasp and an understanding of who he is worshipping, and the greatness and the majesty and the amazing nature of this God. So, and that overwhelms you in worship. So there you have a person who is worshipping God in spirit, because the spirit is all fired up by the Spirit of God. And here you have a man who knows his God, and then he, in the totality of his understanding of the nature of God, worships Him in spirit and in truth. And there is no worship that pleases God, that worship, there is a combination of both spirit and in truth. I don't want your worship if you do not know me. I do not want your worship if you do not have a relationship with me. But when you come to me like Job comes to me, when I raised the test, he rose up and met the standard. And he has the audacity to bless me in the midst of everything that I took away from him. Now, I like this guy. He knows me. He trusts me. Whether I give him or whether I take away from him, nothing can shake this man. Nothing can shake this man. Shake this man. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed his understanding or the wisdom of the godly purpose behind trials and testings and sufferings. You know, when his wife asked him to curse God and die, you know what a beautiful, wise answer he gives his wife. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? You love God only because He blesses you? The true test of who you are, the true test of what your spirituality is, the true test of what stuff you are made of is not when you sing la 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 to me in your blessings, is when you worship me in the understand the totality of your understanding of my nature, when I give it to you, whether I take it away, whether it be the most thing that is closest to your heart, if I take that away and you do not accept it as from me, and if you do, there is a wise man. He answered his wife very wisely. And he was telling his wife, the totality, that word is coming out a lot, the totality of my identity is not in what I have. His wife, you know, in essence, what is his wife saying? You are the sum of me, children, possessions, house, animals. All that is, everything disappeared. Now you are the totality of nothing. So your identity is in all that you had. All that you had is gone. You have no identity. What is the reason to leave? Curse God and die or do suicide? To which Job responds back wisely, God is my identity. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? You gave me, Lord, I enjoyed your blessings. I worshipped you. I declared in the land, the Lord is the source of all my blessings. You in your sovereign wisdom and will took everything away. I will bless your name. I will still bless your name, because the totality of my identity is not the sum of everything that I have. The totality of my identity is from you. You give me an identity. You give me a purpose. Things will come, things will go. Nothing is going to shake me, O Lord. Nothing is going to shake me. I will bless the name of the Lord. Job's worship in his brokenness revealed his integrity. That word comes a couple of times in these two chapters. After the first testing, also he said, the Bible's testimony about Job is he held on to his integrity. The wife said to him, do you still hold fast to your integrity? It's very hard to explain integrity. It's an all-rounded nature, spiritual character of a child of God. It's very hard to explain. But that was the ultimate thing. That was a test. Can this man be broken? Everything that the devil tried, they never could change the shape of this man. He still remained well-rounded. So whole in his spiritual strength, so whole in his spiritual integrity, so whole in his spiritual testimony, so resilient. I think the devil must have gone home a very defeated man that day. Is there anything I can do to this man where I can break him down? Now I know why the Lord showed up. Oh, Lord, to have that in my resume, that's amazing. When God says, I showed him off, I tested him, and he rose up to occasion. He is my man. He is my man. I will show him off in the spiritual realm. He is a man of integrity. And very close to this. From Job's perspective, he had a choice whether he would curse God and die. He didn't curse God and die. He blessed the name of the Lord. Because I strongly believe in all his brokenness, he realized that he could run to many things He could run to many things, and we all do that. It doesn't have to be brokenness for us. It can be a small thing. In all our struggles, we run to so many other things to patch us up. But Job had lots of reasons, enough and more reasons, and plenty of things he could run to sustain him in his brokenness. But he just, it's like, how do I put it? What do you call a bear hug? He just clinged on to the Lord. Lord, I can't take this, Lord. I have lost everything. There is nothing more left to leave, Lord. I am so broken, Lord. My wife is cursing me and challenging me to curse God and die. I so want to die. I so want to commit suicide. I so want to disappear from this, Lord. But Lord, I realize, Lord, there is help nowhere else. Nothing else can patch me up. Nothing else can restore me. Nothing else can heal me. Nothing else can fix me. Nothing else can sustain me in this agonizing brokenness, Lord. So I cling on to you, Lord. I cling on to you. Job understood that God alone can sustain him in his brokenness and use it for Job's transformation and for his glory. Now, I want you to go home and put yourself in Job's shoes and now think like Job. We peeked into Job's mind and heart and thinking. And then now, when you have peeked in and you realize this is something that Job knew about his God. This is something Job knew about how God behaves. And in the light of all that, Job said is worthy. God is worthy of being of my allegiance and my love and my commitment, irrespective of what he sends my way. Naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips, and he holds fast to his integrity. That is the testimony of God about Job. Shall we pray?